Welcome to my channel. Here, we share inspiring stories of brave and strong people. Maybe you'll see yourself or someone you know in these stories. Thank you for watching. The roar of motorcycles shattered the peaceful serenity of Lakeside Park. Children stopped mid-play, their parents freezing at the sound of Derek Cole's gang approaching. Clad in leather and menace, the bikers spread out like predators, scanning the park as if claiming new territory. Laura Hayes tensed as Derek locked eyes with her. "We need to have a little talk," he sneered. What started as an ordinary afternoon for Laura would soon spiral into a nightmare of intimidation, buried secrets, and a force older than time itself. She had no idea this moment would change the future of Ravenwood forever. Drop a comment and share where you're joining us from. If stories like this resonate with you, hit subscribe so you don't miss our next inspiring journey coming tomorrow. The roar of motorcycles shattered the peaceful quiet of Lakeside Park. Parents turned their heads, faces tightening with concern as Derek Cole's gang surged onto the gravel path like a rolling storm. Leather jackets gleamed under the midday sun, adorned with red wolf insignias. Their presence a clear message: trouble had arrived. Laura Hayes, seated on a bench near the play area, froze. Her two children, Emily and Jason, laughed as they raced each other toward the swings, oblivious to the shifting atmosphere. The gang dismounted their bikes, their boots crunching on gravel. Derek Cole, tall with a hard gaze, strode forward, scanning the park like a predator claiming territory. His lieutenants spread out, intimidating anyone who dared linger. Parents grabbed their children, retreating hastily toward the parking lot. The once lively park grew eerily quiet, save for the low rumble of idling engines. Derek's eyes locked onto Laura, and he approached with a slow, deliberate gait. "Laura Hayes," he said, his voice low but carrying an undeniable threat. "Nice day for a picnic." "Huh." Laura's throat tightened, but she didn't flinch. "What do you want, Derek?" Derek gave a casual shrug, his lips curling into a half-smile. "Same as always. Security. Protection. You know how dangerous this world is these days." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. $2,000 a month. Starting now." She clenched her fists, forcing herself to hold his gaze. "You're out of your mind. I'm not paying you." Derek chuckled, a dark, humorless sound. "See, that's where people get confused. This isn't optional. You've got two kids out here, playing without a care. It'd be a shame if something happened." A spike of fear shot through her, but she masked it with defiance. "You think you can scare me? This town has seen enough of your gang. You're not going to get a dime." Derek's smile faded, his expression hardening. He straightened and signaled to one of his men. The gang member took a slow step forward, cracking his knuckles, but Derek held up a hand to stop him. "I like you, Laura," he said softly. "You've got guts. But guts don't keep people safe. Accidents happen. And I'm giving you until Friday to think about what's really important." Behind him, the earth gave a faint, almost imperceptible tremor. Laura frowned, glancing down as a subtle vibration rippled through the ground beneath her feet. The gang members exchanged uneasy glances. Derek paused, tilting his head as if listening to something distant and faint. "You feel that?" one of his men muttered, shifting nervously. "It's nothing," Derek snapped, brushing off the moment. "Let's move." The gang reluctantly mounted their bikes again, engines roaring to life. Derek shot one last look at Laura, his eyes narrowing. "Don't make me come back here with bad news." With that, The motorcycles tore away, kicking up gravel and dust. The park was silent once more, the tension lingering like an aftertaste. Parents cautiously returned from their hiding spots, whispering among themselves about what had just happened. Laura exhaled shakily, her gaze drifting to her children. Emily waved to her from the swings, completely unaware of the danger that had just passed. The ground trembled again, this time stronger. It was subtle, almost as if the earth itself was stirring in response to the gang's presence. Something wasn't right. She could feel it deep in her gut. This wasn't just about Derek and his threats. Something bigger was waking beneath Ravenwood. And she had the unsettling sense that today's confrontation was only the beginning. Laura sat inside her car at the edge of the park, hands shaking slightly as she pressed a hidden icon on her phone. The screen flashed briefly, an encrypted signal sent directly to her brother, Ethan Hayes. No words were needed, he'd understand the urgency. In Nevada. Ethan Hayes scanned the tactical map on a monitor when his secure device vibrated. One glance at the emergency signal erased all other priorities. He strode across the operations center, issuing rapid orders to his subordinates. "Lieutenant, cover for me. Family emergency," he said. No one questioned him, they knew how seriously Ethan took family matters. Within minutes, he was in a military SUV heading to a private airstrip. Ethan dialed a secure number, connecting to his old contact in Ravenwood's police department, Detective Lisa Owens. "Owens," Ethan said without preamble. "What the hell is going on in Ravenwood?" Detective Owens sighed on the other end. "Derek Cole's gang has been pushing hard the last few weeks. Extortion, vandalism, typical intimidation tactics. They're targeting local businesses, families, people like your sister. Has anyone tried to shut them down?" "Limited resources," Owens replied bitterly. "Cole's got the whole town scared. And they know we're stretched thin. No one's willing to stand up to them." Ethan's jaw tightened. "That's going to change." "I figured you'd say that," Owens said. "But there's something else you should know. There've been disturbances. Weird tremors around the town and reports of strange sounds in the tunnels under the old industrial district. No one knows what's causing it." Ethan frowned. "Tunnels? You think it's connected to Cole?" "I don't know. But things started getting worse when his gang moved in," Owen said. "Be careful. This isn't just about gang violence anymore." "Understood," Ethan said, ending the call. Meanwhile, Derek Cole's gang intensified their grip on the town. At Dawson's Hardware, Derek's enforcer, Lucas Reaper Ortiz, leaned against the counter, smirking at the nervous owner. "Listen, Mr. Dawson," Reaper said, tapping a baseball bat against the floor. "It'd be a shame if something happened to your store. You know how unpredictable things can get around here." Dawson swallowed hard, glancing at the cracked windows from the last time he had refused to pay. "I'll get the money by Friday." "Smart man," Reaper said, patting him on the shoulder. Similar scenes played out across Ravenwood. The gang's reputation for violence spread fear like wildfire, silencing any thoughts of resistance. But Derek sensed something was different today. His mind drifted back to the tremor at the park, the unsettling vibration beneath his feet. It wasn't natural, and he didn't like things he couldn't explain. "We need to keep an eye on Hayes' sister," he told Reaper later. "Something tells me this isn't over." Flying toward Ravenwood, Ethan reviewed everything he had learned. The gang was a problem. Yes, but the mention of abandoned tunnels and strange disturbances suggested something more dangerous was brewing. Whatever it was, he knew one thing for certain: Ravenwood needed him now more than ever. Ethan Hayes arrived in Ravenwood just before dawn. Driving through quiet streets that felt abandoned despite the town's early hour. He parked near the main square where Detective Owens waited. Arms crossed. Beside her stood Franklin Mills. A middle-aged man with the rugged look of someone who knew the town's secrets. "Good to see you, Ethan," Owens greeted. "This is Franklin Mills, local infrastructure guy. Knows every tunnel and dead end under this place." Franklin extended a hand. "I heard you've got some trouble with more than just the gang." "Seems that way," Ethan replied, shaking his hand. "What's the situation underground?" "Been hearing weird sounds," Franklin said. "Echoes that don't match any known tunnel paths. And some areas are vibrating like something's moving beneath them. I can show you." "Let's check it out," Ethan said, his instincts sharpening. They ventured to one of the older entrances to Ravenwood's underground tunnels. A rusty maintenance door creaked open, revealing a long, dimly lit passage. The air felt heavier here, charged with an almost unnatural stillness. As they descended, faint tremors shook the ground beneath their feet. Owens glanced at the flickering overhead lights. This started a few weeks ago. First, just occasional tremors. Now it's almost constant. Franklin led them deeper into the tunnels, pausing near a sealed chamber. This section hasn't been used in decades. It was part of something called Project Echo. Heard rumors growing up, military experiments during the Cold War. Some say they left something behind. "Any records?" Ethan asked. "None that anyone's willing to admit exist," Owens said grimly. "But it's tied to those tunnels Derek Cole's gang has been using. They're not just looking for control over the town anymore, they might be trying to dig up whatever's down here." A low, distant rumble echoed through the tunnel, accompanied by a deep, otherworldly hum. Franklin shivered. "That's been happening every night. It's getting louder." Ethan narrowed his eyes. If this is some forgotten military project, it's not just the gang we have to worry about. Meanwhile, in an abandoned warehouse near the outskirts of town, Derek Cole slammed his fist on a wooden table, silencing the murmurs around him. His lieutenants sat tensely, exchanging nervous glances. "You're all acting like a bunch of cowards," Derek snarled. "Tremors and noises don't scare me." Reaper, his second in command, crossed his arms. "It's not just that, Derek. Some of the boys are saying they've seen things. Shadows that move when there's no one there. We didn't sign up for this." Derek's jaw tightened. "Superstitions. We own this town, and no ghost story is going to change that." But the fear was spreading. He could see it in their eyes. Control was slipping, as tension built underground and within the gang. Another player quietly arrived in Ravenwood. Victor Langley stepped out of a black SUV, flanked by two armed operatives. His cold gaze surveyed the streets as if he owned them. "Project Echo is still active," Langley muttered to his men. "Secure the artifact before anyone else interferes. No mistakes." The real fight for Ravenwood had just begun. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to our channel, it means so much to us. Now, let's get back to the story. The heavy footsteps of Langley's operatives echoed through the tunnel as Ethan, Franklin, and Detective Owens stood their ground near the artifact chamber. Ethan's eyes narrowed as Langley himself strode forward, his expression cold and commanding. "Lieutenant Commander Hayes," Langley greeted in an icy tone. "Step aside. You're interfering with a classified operation tied to national security." Ethan crossed his arms. "Funny. I don't remember Ravenwood being declared a war zone. You're the one trespassing." Langley's gaze hardened. This artifact is a threat beyond your comprehension. We're here to secure it before it destabilizes. You're out of your depth. I'm not stepping aside. Ethan shot back. Not when your security plan puts this entire town at risk. Langley nodded to his men, who advanced with tactical precision. You don't have a choice. Hayes. Before anyone could move, the ground shook violently. A deafening hum reverberated through the tunnel walls as an intense surge of energy erupted from the artifact chamber. The lights overhead flickered wildly, some shattering from the force. The air seemed to ripple, bending time and space in disorienting waves. Langley stumbled back, shouting orders to his operatives. Regroup. Stabilize the perimeter. Ethan pulled Franklin to cover behind a support beam. Stay low. This is going to get worse. The artifact pulsed again, sending a shockwave through the tunnels. Some of Langley's men were thrown off their feet, disoriented by the strange, fluctuating gravity around them. Ethan gritted his teeth, trying to maintain his balance as the world seemed to twist and stretch unnaturally. Above ground, Megan Lou stood near the entrance to the old utility tunnels, coordinating efforts with townspeople who had gathered to defend key locations. A sudden tremor knocked several people off balance, and Megan grabbed her radio. Ethan! What the hell is going on down there? She demanded. Artifacts out of control. Ethan's voice crackled over the line. We're holding the line, but I need backup. Langley's men aren't giving up, and the whole place is warping. Megan exchanged a glance with Franklin, who had emerged from another tunnel entrance. You heard him. Let's move. She and a group of volunteers descended into the tunnels, carrying whatever tools and makeshift weapons they could find. The deeper they went, the more they felt the artifact's influence. Time seemed to slow in some places and speed up in others. Voices echoed unnaturally, disjointed and distorted. Derek Cole paced near the entrance of his gang's hideout, scowling as he felt another tremor shake the ground. Reaper approached, looking grim. You're not going to like this. Langley's men are making moves underground. It's not just about us anymore. Derek clenched his jaw. What's their angle? Something to do with that artifact. But from what I've heard, they'll tear this place apart if they have to. Reaper said. We don't have the firepower to take them head on. Derek exhaled sharply. He hated the idea, but he knew the truth. Langley's forces wouldn't care who got caught in the crossfire. If the artifact kept destabilizing, they'd all be collateral damage. Get Hayes on the line. Derek growled. We need to make a deal. I'm not letting these government spooks destroy my turf. Moments later, Ethan received a surprising call on his radio. Derek's voice was gruff but serious. Hayes. Listen. I don't like you, but Langley's people are going to level this town. We both want them out. Let's work together. Thought you weren't afraid of a little pressure. Derek. Ethan replied coolly. I don't fear you or anyone else. But I'm not stupid. You want to keep Ravenwood standing? Then let's handle this. Fine. Ethan said after a pause. Meet me near the main tunnel junction. No games. Deal. Derek muttered before the connection cut out. As Ethan, Derek, and their respective teams regrouped, the artifact's pulses grew stronger. The air crackled with electric energy, and ghostly afterimages of the past flickered around the chamber, visions of long-forgotten soldiers and scientists from Project Echo. Langley barked orders from across the chamber. Contain that energy. If we lose control, everything within a 5-mile radius is gone. Ethan stepped forward, voice steady despite the chaos. You're not in control. Langley. Not anymore. The artifact emitted a deafening pulse, sending both sides scrambling for cover. The walls groaned under the strain as a blinding light filled the chamber. Ethan knew they were out of time. Someone had to take control before the entire town was lost. The artifact chamber erupted into chaos. Waves of energy crackled through the air, distorting time and space. Langley's operatives moved with military precision, firing suppressive rounds at Ethan's team. Sparks rained down from shattered light fixtures as Ethan dove behind a pillar, barking orders into his radio. "Hold your ground. Megan. Secure the left tunnel exit." "On it." Megan Lou responded, leading a group of townspeople into position. Franklin Mills and a few others fortified another entrance, armed with makeshift barricades and tools. Across the chamber, Derek Cole and his gang fought an entirely different battle. Strange, shadow-like figures flickered in and out of existence, darting through the air and causing disorientation. One of Derek's men screamed as a translucent shape passed through him, leaving him shaken and pale. "What the hell are these things?" Reaper shouted, swinging a crowbar wildly at one of the ghostly forms. "They're not real, just energy projections." Ethan yelled across the chamber. "Stay focused." Derek gritted his teeth, his gang already on the verge of collapse. He wasn't about to lose everything to something he didn't understand. "Keep it together," he roared at his men. "We didn't come this far to run now." Langley stood near the artifact, barking orders to his remaining operatives. "We need to contain the surge. Redirect the power flow before the whole structure collapses." His men struggled to control the overload, but it was clear they were losing. The artifact pulsed with greater intensity, casting the entire chamber in blinding flashes of light. Time seemed to fracture. One moment, the chamber was eerily still. The next, everyone moved in slow motion as echoes of the past flickered around them. Ghostly images of scientists and soldiers from decades ago appeared, their faces locked in expressions of fear and urgency. "We're running out of time," Owens shouted, shielding her eyes from the brightness. "If this keeps up, the tunnels will cave in." Ethan assessed the situation quickly. Shutting down the artifact might stop the surges, but it could also trigger a full collapse of the underground structure. The other option, stabilizing it, was risky. But if they succeeded, it could prevent further destruction and possibly integrate the artifact's power safely with the town. "Megan. Franklin. I need your help at the artifact," Ethan called out. They rushed to his side, flinching as another tremor shook the ground. "What's the plan?" Megan asked, sweat dripping down her face. "We stabilize it," Ethan said firmly. "If we can control the energy output, we can stop this without bringing the whole town down." Langley overheard and scoffed. "You're out of your depth, Hayes. You don't know what you're dealing with." "I know enough," Ethan shot back. "You've had your chance. Stand down or get out of the way." Langley hesitated, weighing his options. His operatives were scattered, and his containment efforts had failed. He gave Ethan a hard glare. "This isn't over," he said coldly. "You've just delayed the inevitable." With a signal to his men, Langley retreated, disappearing into one of the side tunnels. The ghostly projections faded slightly, but the artifact continued to pulse dangerously. "All right, let's do this," Ethan said, positioning himself near the control panel. Franklin adjusted a set of ancient dials, while Megan monitored the fluctuating energy levels. Together, they synchronized the artifact's power output. "Steady, steady," Ethan muttered as the tremors gradually subsided. The pulses grew fainter, and the air stabilized. Finally, the artifact emitted a final, harmonious hum before falling silent. The chaotic energy dissipated entirely. The chamber was eerily still. Ethan exhaled and looked around. Langley was gone. And Derek's gang had regrouped. Visibly shaken by what they had witnessed, Derek approached Ethan. His expression grim but resigned. "This thing's bigger than all of us," Derek said quietly. "I don't want any part of it anymore. I'm done." "Then stay out of the way," Ethan replied. "If you care about this town, you'll make sure no one else tries to exploit it." Derek nodded slowly. "Fair enough." He turned to his men. "We're pulling out. This isn't our fight anymore." As the gang left the chamber, Ethan's team began inspecting the tunnels for structural damage. Franklin noticed something strange. The walls seemed stronger, reinforced by a faint glow that lingered like a protective barrier. "Is it healing itself?" Franklin asked in awe. "Looks like it," Megan said, her voice tinged with wonder. "The artifact did more than just stabilize. It's connected to the town now." Ethan surveyed the chamber, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. Ravenwood had changed, subtly but undeniably. The artifact's influence would remain. But for now, the danger had passed. "Let's get back topside," Ethan said, his voice steady. "There's still a lot of work to do." As they made their way out of the tunnels, the faint hum of the artifact echoed softly behind them, a reminder that Ravenwood's future was still being shaped by forces both known and unknown. The days following the artifact's stabilization saw Ravenwood coming together like never before. Families cleared debris, neighbors shared resources, and local businesses reopened stronger than before. Megan Lou organized teams to repair damaged infrastructure, while Franklin Mills led efforts to inspect the tunnels. The town, once fractured by fear and intimidation, now stood united with a renewed sense of purpose. Ethan watched from the edge of Lakeside Park, where children played freely once more. The subtle hum of the artifact could still be felt beneath the earth, gentle, no longer threatening. The changes were visible. Trees grew taller, flowers bloomed vibrantly, and the town's energy felt alive in ways no one could fully explain. Reflecting on the journey, Ethan recognized the power of unity. It wasn't military tactics that saved Ravenwood, but the courage and strength of its people. They had faced overwhelming odds and emerged stronger, ready to face whatever came next. As the sun set over Ravenwood, a quiet peace settled over the town. The scars of the past remained, but they served as reminders of resilience. Ravenwood stood stronger than ever, not just because of what they had survived, but because of what they had become. The town of Ravenwood had changed, stronger than ever, but with such immense power hidden beneath their feet. Will this peace last? What would you do in their place? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.